Have you ever felt that you as a woman may not appear to measure up when you see incredible women in strong roles? You may be surprised when hearing from women in these positions and how we all share many of the same challenges. Thank you for joining us for the SheEO Lead-In podcast with Rebecca Jones as we share the journeys of women.
Hello, I'm Rebecca Jones, your host of SheEO Lead-In. We are on an exploration together to discover more about the personal journeys of incredible women in both career and life. We all have paths to share that sometimes take incredible turns, deep resilience, and courage to navigate. My hopes are that the challenges shared here encourage women to take leaps of faith and growth when a journey feels too difficult or unachievable. There is great strength deep within each one of us. These stories are meant to share the ways strong women have taken their dreams to strive and thrive to new heights, despite their sometimes rocky paths, and found a way to lead in. Today we are here with Michelle Gonzalez, the CEO and president of TrueCare. Hi, how are you today?
Hi, good. It's so great to be here.
Well, I'm really excited to hear all about how you got to where you got. I do want to start with a bit of an icebreaker, I would call it, and
Sure.
That is, do you have a story that you think that people would enjoy and kind of, see you as more of maybe a girl and someone that took all this journey of yours to where you are? Because, you have a pretty high-powered job. How do you have one from your childhood that you really just think is kind of fun and you want to share with our listeners today?
Oh gosh, so many. When you ask about a story, I immediately think of my kids. So my own childhood. So when I was growing up, I grew up actually on the East Coast, and I was always outdoors. And I considered myself to be a little bit of a BMX bandit. So my bike was my ticket everywhere. And there was one afternoon I was riding, and I fell off my bike and I skinned my knee. Went home, I got patched up, went back out, I fell again. Same knee, reopened the cut. It was so excruciatingly painful. Went home, got patched up again. It happened a third time. And the third time that I fell, there was actually a stick that went into my knee and was protruding out. So I had to somehow hobble home. And my dad patched me up. And then that evening, my parents went and bought me knee pads. Not a helmet, but knee pads, so that I could protect my knees going forward. And my mom said, you're going to be professional one day, and you might have to wear dresses and skirts, and you don't want to have all of these scars all over your legs. And so I always remember that, and I still have the scar to remind me kind of that incident. I don't know if that's exactly, but it's something I think about actually often.
So as you were telling this story, yeah. I don't know, somehow the song came into my head, Scars to Beautiful. and that's all about, all the things that we go through in life, that really seem
Yes.
awful at the moment. And then we look back and we go, oh, wow, I actually had a lot of growth through that. And so it's kind of a good thing that happened.
Well, and that scar reminds me of the need to be resilient, right? Who falls 3 times in the same afternoon and still gets back up and keeps going. And so I actually, from time to time, I'll touch my scar, and it reminds me of, that journey in childhood.
Well, and let's not forget, you had a protruding stick out of your knee.
Yeah.
That's kind of unusual.
That's right.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
kind of a big deal. Thank you.
So, so you talk about resilience and all of that. What is the one word that you think describes you the best?
Oh, gosh. I would probably have to say family. I think I wish I could do a combo word of faith and family together. Yeah. I think those are probably my, those are my 2 anchors. I can't have one without the other. My faith guides me in everything that I do. And, my family is my inspiration. And I think those that I keep close, I tend to think of as family. So I don't have a big table necessarily, but I have a meaningful table of individuals who are there with me.
So how many kids are in your family?
So I'm the youngest of 7. I come from a family of 7. Yep.
Okay.
And my husband and I, we only have 2 kids. 1 is 1, 2 is 20 is what I always say. So we're definitely blessed. And then we have between my brothers and sisters, my mom actually has 22 grandchildren, and I think 11 at this point, 11 or 12 great grandchildren.
Wow.
Yeah, so we have a huge family.
Huge family. Oh my God. So who hosts all of everyone?
Well, my family goes back and forth between Guam and here in the States. And so it's very rare that all of us are all together because there are so many and they're kind of spread. Some of them are spread across the United States, but...
Okay, so you work at TrueCare.
I do.
How long have you been in that career?
So I actually have been with TrueCare for 20 years. It was my 20th year anniversary this past April. Believe it or not, I actually started as a program assistant and had no intention of maintaining a position at the organization. Back then, we were North County Health Services.
Right.
And I kind of gave myself this self-imposed year deadline after I completed my undergraduate degree from Cal State San Marcos. And I said, I'm going to give myself 1 year. If I don't find my dream job, I'm leaving. I'm gonna move on, and I'm going to join the Air Force.
The Air Force?
The Air Force,
oh my
yeah.
gosh.
So I come from a family with military background.
Okay.
And I was probably 3 months shy of that self-imposed deadline. And someone... a woman by the name of Cindy Dickinson, who used to work for the organization, she came to me and she said, we have this position available. Would you be interested? And I thought, gosh, they probably have a quota that they have to meet in terms of the number of people they need to interview. And I need real feedback about why I'm not landing the jobs that I want, because everything I was being offered was so close to, far. It was like in Chula Vista, San Isidro, and that was right around the time gas prices were going up. So I thought, we'll do each other a solid, and then I'll get really good feedback, and then I can land a job that I want. And lo and behold, I got the position. And so from that point on, I said, well, if I'm going to take on this role, then I really better lean in and learn more about the organization and what they do. And from that point on, I just absolutely fell in love with the mission, what we do for the community. I could not believe that I had been a resident of North County since childhood and didn't know about North County Health Services at the time. And since that moment forward, every day, every year, every month had really been an opportunity to learn and meet really great people and give back to our community.
So talk a little bit about the organization, because I think it is very interesting that some people go there out of need,
Sure.
but some people go there out of choice. And
Absolutely.
so kind of tell me how that evolved, because I don't think that's how it always has been. I think it has become more of a choice and not just based on need.
Sure. Well, so TrueCare, we've actually been around since 1973, right? We are a federally qualified health center, a community health center, and our mission is really to improve the health status of our diverse communities. So anybody who walks through our door, regardless of where they're at, their journey in life, we're there to assist them and help them. We have a full array of services. We have probably close to 800 staff now. I think we're about 765 and serve more than 60,000 patients every year. So we're really an economic engine in our communities.
Right.
And the individuals who work there are very mission driven. So we get patients from all walks of life. We have patients who have insurance, patients who don't have insurance, patients who had insurance at one time, lost their job or struggled with business, and then became uninsured. Maybe go on to acquire employment at a new place and get new insurance and still choose to come to TrueCare. And I think what's unique about our organization is that we're not just taking care of community members and their immediate need. We're really trying to assure that they have a medical home, and so that there are a full entourage of services available for them. We want to be a one-stop shop to the best of our ability. And everything that we do with compassion. So our staff are a direct reflection of our community members and vice versa. And I think that's why so many of our patients feel as comfortable as they do, because it feels like family.
Yeah.
And, our tagline is health inside, welcome in. And sometimes I think it should be your home, welcome in. That's what it feels like. We have generations of patients. We have grandmas who delivered with us, and then their daughters come back, and now their granddaughters. So it's not uncommon for us to see 3 generations in one exam room.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is pretty interesting. So, when you think, I'm just kind of going back to the large family and just your way of looking at things. I think it does translate into what you're doing. It is like a family. I mean, just based on what how you're explaining all of it, it does seem like it's a big family. How do you bring that to the table? And how long have you been the president and CEO?
So I assumed the role in April of 2020. So right as the pandemic was really starting to take off. Yeah, it's been quite a journey. And I'm sorry, your other question was?
And how do you bring the whole family aspect of being one of 7, the youngest, and into the whole family atmosphere of TrueCare?
Well, I think it's definitely a fine line. I think of work as we've got our home family, and then we have our work family at work. And whether we like it or not, we spend a lot of days more time at work than we do with our own family. So I always say we have to not only enjoy what we're doing, we have to care about the people that we're working with. We have to have a vested interest in one another. Otherwise, it can feel very robotic. Yeah. When you're dealing with healthcare and community members and patients the way that we are, folks don't come to us when they're at their best. A lot of times they come to us when they're at their worst. Right. And so we really, I believe, have an obligation to not only treat each other in a lot of ways like family, but also those that we serve. And so, when folks come into my office, when true heroes, as we call them, come into my office to sit down, I really try to make it a point to be invested in the conversation and really listen to where they're coming from. I know that as the youngest of 7, I often felt ignored, right? Like there wasn't enough time. And so when I have staff who come in, I really try to just be present with them and make sure that they feel heard. And I will always say, you don't need an appointment to come in. I just have to be here.
Yeah.
And so that's really my job, I think, in a lot of ways, is to keep the door open and keep the communication flowing, much like you would try to in your own family.
Right. So success and failure, I'm sure you've had both.
Too many. Yeah.
Oh. So do you have a story that you might want to share with us about that? Either or, it doesn't have to be both, but I mean, it just something that really sticks out in your mind of, this really helped me because of something that came out at the end. I feel like sometimes you have to have this moment where you just go, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. You somehow get through it. And then you look back and you say, I see why. And this is what came of that.
Yes. So there's this, so I'm not going to give too many details because I don't want to, it was such a failure. So I was asked to be a guest speaker for this group that was going through sort of like a series of workshops. And I had prepared this presentation and probably over-prepared, right? And overthought it and was probably trying to be too mechanical about it. I get into the venue and the for whatever reason, the laptop is not syncing like with my thumb drive. It's just, I have no presentation.
Oh no.
And it is, I have a handout, I have a paper copy, but I don't have these slides that I can sort of point to. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, how am I going to, and I'm supposed to speak for like 30 minutes.
Oh boy.
So I thought, oh my goodness, how am I going to get through this? And so, I took a pause, I took a break. I actually turned around and said a quick prayer. And I was like, Lord, if you are there, I need you right now. Could you just sort of do some kind of divine intervention? And I turned back around and I was just honest with the audience. I told them about what happened. And I said, I probably over-prepared for this presentation. I hate to say that. And I said, I have a sort of a rough outline. Why don't I go through that with you? And then why don't I just open it up for questions? And you all can ask me anything that you want. And if I don't have the answer, I promise to go back and get it for you. And that turned out to be it started as a failure and turned out to be one of the best presentations that I probably have ever given. And I made great contacts and still remain in touch with a lot of those people. And I think what that taught me was I need to trust myself a little bit more. And I need to show up as my authentic self in anything and everything that I'm doing, and not try to fabricate an experience for anyone or anything. And I really think, the stars aligned, and I was not destined to have that presentation that day. I think I was meant to fail in that way. And I had to think fast, and it worked out.
Well, what's funny is as you were talking about when it was, failing and you were thinking, oh gosh, the first thing that came to my head was, oh, well, that's a time for prayer. Then you prayed, which is funny. And then the second thing was you were like, and then I brought my authentic self. I think, I actually met with some second graders yesterday. One of the kids said to me, he said, do you ever make mistakes? I literally laughed out loud and I said, all the time. And I said, because as humans, we're always going to be making mistakes. And I think, being able to say that out loud is a big deal. And being able to look back and say, you know what, I didn't do this right, or this is not going well. It's really hard for people like in my business where they look back and say, you know what, that's not working. Let's come up with another idea. That is a huge failure in itself, just not being able to admit that something's not working and then not changing, a course, because you're never, ever going to be successful, I think, at the end, if you are not, taking those opportunities where you say, oh yeah, that didn't work. And I mean, your example is absolutely perfect. And thank you for sharing that, because really it is a beautiful thing. You were for probably 2 minutes, you were thinking, this is it. Yeah, I'm cooked. This is just never going to turn around. And then look how it all worked out.
It did work out well. And as you were talking, you mentioned second graders. I have a second grader, Amoris, and then I have a son, Cristo, and he is in 8th grade. And my husband and I are constantly amazed at how much they humble us. Right? Yeah. We always say, oh my gosh, we're thinking that we're teaching our kids about life, but it's our kids who are teaching us what life is all about. And I feel, they just serve us humble pie on a daily basis. It is not uncommon in our house for our kids to really, and I think in a very respectful way, sort of put us in our place. And we have to turn around and say, you know what, I'm sorry, I messed up about that. Or you're right, that was a really good point. And I think that's such an important, we don't always get it right. Heaven knows we do not always get it right. But I think that also translates into business, right? The goal for us at home is to have a harmonious family where there's trust and there's love and there's stability. And I think in the business arena, you also want to have trust. You want to have stability. You want to obviously be successful and maintain your goals. And that oftentimes requires you to pivot and change course. You don't lose sight of the goal,
right?
But you decide to take 2 lefts and then go straight versus 3 rights and then, hang a U-turn or whatever it may be.
Right.
And I think that's such a great point that you make. You have to surround yourself with people who are willing to step forward and tell you when an error is occurring, and who feel safe enough to speak up and say, hey, there's another way that we might be looking at this, or I think you might have missed something. So I just, as you were talking, all of those things sort of came to mind, and I can see a correlation between all of them.
And you definitely need to have people that do that, but you also need to be able to receive that.
Right.
And receive it in a way that isn't, negative, but where you actually look and say, I do see that about myself, and, to be able to change a little bit. And you know what, back to your kids, I think I will be learning things until the day I die. I both. And I'm planning on living to be at least 100. But when you think about all of the people that come into your life, I think they all serve a purpose. As whether it's a negative experience or a good experience, you learn something from everyone. And I think, being able to see that and being able to have the, the knowledge and, the maturity to actually say, yeah, even though they're younger than me, they have something to share to help me, help shape me. So let's just talk about balance, because as a mom. I mean, you mentioned your kids are, pretty young.
Yeah.
My kids are in their 20s. So, my job of taking care of their every need is finished, though, still have to be there, to help guide them when they have questions or, want to bounce something off of. But as you have young children, how do you balance all that work and life? Because it is not easy.
Well, the first thing I will say is I don't always balance it all.
Yeah.
There are good days, good weeks, good months, and then there are others where we miss the
failures.
mark. Yeah, epic failures, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then the second thing I will say is that I have an amazing partner and co-pilot in my husband, right? And so we're still figuring life out, it feels like, even though we've been at this for quite some time. But there's we really try to approach things as a team. But for me personally, I have come to accept that balance for me doesn't mean equal shares in all buckets. Balance for me means sometimes I'm 70% mom and 30% in other things. And sometimes I'm 80% president and CEO, and then I'm 20% in other areas, right? But whatever the priority is, wherever I'm needed, I'm there. I show up.
Yeah.
And I think it's sort of like investments. You diversify your investments, but over time, you hope that they're successful. And so over time, I like to think that I'm a pretty good leader and I'm a pretty good mom. Do I get it right all of the time? No. Do I have to make sacrifices? 1,000%. But, accepting that there are going to be some tough choices, I think is really key. And then surrounding yourself with a really good network is key to survival. If it wasn't for my husband and some of our family members, I don't know that either one of us would be as successful as we are in maintaining a great family.
And I like that the part about sometimes you're 70% this, sometimes you're 30% that. It is always going to change. I think every day is different. And the realization of that and being able to, say, I'm not going to be hard on myself. I'm not going to, give myself this negative head space because it's not going well today. And one of the things we do have to pivot. We do have to change here and there and tweak and this and that. And, there were moments, when my kids were little, I was like, what in the heck is going on? I'm in such a bad space right now. And they are good about saying, hey, Mom, what are you doing?
Oh, yeah.
And
they're the first to call you out.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, oh, shoot. And then, trying to, make that course correction to get back in the right spot. It's not always easy. And, we just have to keep trying. I mean, that's, one of those things. So let's talk a little bit about barriers and, what have you seen as one of your most difficult barriers?
Oh, gosh, there have been quite a few. I think for me personally, I would say probably time. It feels like time is always a barrier. It's the biggest thief, I think. But earlier on, I think it was probably, just access to resources. So I came from very humble beginnings. My family, my parents both worked really hard. College was not in my future. I had to borrow, took out student loans to pay for college, and I was not college bound by any means. But if it wasn't for my mom and her continual push to say, let's find a way. So every barrier that I encountered, she helped me overcome. I don't know what's required for college. Let's get you in touch with a counselor. We don't have money to pay for it. We can figure out a student loan. I don't know how I'm going to get there, whatever that was. So I think early on, it was resources that were really a barrier, and then lack of knowledge. Mm-hmm. And so I know that, so that's one, and I know that isn't exactly your question, but I want to just make the connection and tie back to what I do today and why I think my work is so heartfelt and why I'm in the right place. And that is because I think when we look at our patients and we look at community members who are really trying to advance, right, and make their way through whatever circumstances they're contending with, so often it's this lack of knowledge, lack of resources, lack of awareness, right? And that they're in those circumstances for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's because it's an underserved population. Sometimes it's because just for socioeconomic reasons, whatever the case may be. So I've had a tremendous amount of barriers, but I think the majority of them have always been linked back to either resources or lack of awareness, as far as I can remember.
And generally, I don't think it's lack of drive for most people.
No.
I think it really is the whole adage, you don't know what you don't know. And, having your mom definitely push you. It sounds like she was probably a role model for you.
Yeah, definitely instrumental for sure.
Pushing you. And, so lessons learned. What did you learn from all of this? I mean, what are some things that really were so monumental and pivotal in your life that you really can look back and say, yeah, that really helped me?
I think the biggest, there's so many. One of the biggest is probably, again, always to be grounded, I think, in my faith and my family. That's number one. Mm-hmm. And the other, I think, is just grit. Like, you cannot give up, right? The determination has to be there. And I think the discipline, because you're not always motivated. So once you make a goal, you really have to stick with it and keep moving forward. Yeah. So, I've learned over the course of my career and my life, goals are big. They're BHAGs. They're big, hairy, audacious goals. And the best way to achieve them is really to sort of chunk them up, right? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Right. So I would say grit, remaining determined, really putting things into bite-sized pieces, if you will, one task, one piece at a time. And then the other that I think that all of that has taught me is really to look at how we can be ladders, right? I think we have an obligation when you experience any level of success, or you start to sort of move up in the world, whatever that looks like to you. We have an obligation, I believe, as humans, as individuals, to lay those ladders down and help pull other people up. And really look and say, okay, this is what I struggled with. What might they be struggling with? And how can I help them bridge those gaps? Every day before my kids go to school, I bless them and I say, be smart, be safe, be kind, be a good friend, try your best. And then I say, God bless you. And they've come to a point now where they say, you didn't bless me. And so when they come home and we talk about their day, one of the things my husband and I always ask them is, how were you a good friend? How were you kind? Right? And really what we're trying to teach them is how to lay those ladders down and pull other people up.
I love that. I love that, Michelle. And we're actually more alike than you even probably know. Oh. I think, when you are successful and you do have things, and by the way, the kindness thing really resonates with me, because there are so many people out there that will say, well, I had someone mean to me today, or I had this. They have a lot of excuses why they're not kind. Mm-hmm. The truth is, no one can make you be a certain way. Only you get to choose.
You get to choose.
You get to choose that. And I think it does for sure. It takes a lot more courage and resilience to be kind to someone that's unkind to you. Absolutely. And it's not hard to be nice to someone that's nice to you, but it is sometimes difficult when someone's opposing you for whatever. And by the way, I think most people that are angry or bitter, it's not because that's who they are. It's because of the circumstances in their lives that they have encountered, maybe that day or, for long periods of time. They just forget the why, right? The why they're being the way that they're being. I don't think they want to.
Very rarely do I think people wake up in the morning and say, yeah, I really want to ruin someone else's day. I really want to be mean and grumpy. Nobody starts out that way, right? No. But I love what you're saying, because it reminds me of the importance of starting from a place of gratitude. And if you can start from a place of gratitude, then you can, it helps you keep things in perspective. Whatever that struggle is, it's for the moment. It too shall pass. The same way the highs pass, the same way the laughter and the excitement passes, that moment of what can feel like despair or challenge, it too shall pass, right?
Absolutely. So you walk into a room, You've got all these young women or young people overall. What would be some advice that you would give to them?
I would say whatever it is in life that grounds you, hold on to it. whether it's your family, whether it's a sport, whether it's your faith, whatever it is, really hold on to that and always remember your why. And then I would say unapologetically be yourself, be who you genuinely are, your authentic self, and just continue to cultivate that. I think as a mom of a daughter, one of my biggest challenges is going to be allowing her to be who she's destined to be without asking her to conform to all of the societal pressures. Yeah. Certainly, I have experienced that. And so I would say to these young girls, be who you are, own it. You don't have to apologize, and just keep taking one step forward. Ask good questions.
So the one thing, so I have a son and a daughter. My son's 27, my daughter's 23. One of the things that I always say to girls and my daughter is, don't be a mean girl.
Yeah.
There are so many people that will tear women down just because they can.
Yep.
But if you are a woman doing that, that is just, our struggles. We all women have struggles. Many of them are similar, but some of them are, unique to our lives.
Right.
But a lot of them are really similar. And there is just this segment of women that just want to tear other women down. I don't understand it.
I think it probably comes from a place of pain. Right. And again, if you're sort of lacking that self-awareness and you're not rooted in something, you're not anchored by something. Right. If you don't stand for something, it's easy to fall for anything. Right. And so I love this idea of don't be a mean girl. That's perfect. Don't
be a mean girl.
Don't be a mean girl. We really need to focus on lifting each other up.
That's right.
There's plenty of spotlight to go around, right? And we hear this all the time, shining the light on someone else doesn't dim your own.
Right.
And so I love that. I will definitely incorporate that going forward. Don't be a mean girl. Don't do it.
So my son, this is hilarious. When he was in kindergarten, he said this. He said, Mom, there's something special about every girl. And I remember thinking, well, that's a strange thing for a kid to say. But he's right. He is so right. There is something beautiful about every woman.
Yes.
There really is. And we all have our different personalities and our different way of doing things. But there is something very unique, in our deep within the souls of us.
Yep.
That is so beautiful. And, I think helping other women find that in themselves is really kind of fun. And
Absolutely.
Then when you actually see that about yourself, my daughter, I look at her and I think, gosh, she's so fierce. She's so courageous and she's so young. And I am so proud to see other women finding this within themselves and really seeing who they're supposed to be and they're meant to be and really connecting with it. Mm-hmm. There is something so special about that. I just love it. I love to see it.
I love what you're saying and how you sort of characterize your son. I have a son, obviously. I shared that. And he's like an old soul. And so, him and my daughter, they have, I think, a lot of similarities, but a lot of differences probably like yours, right? And so we're teaching our girls how to be strong women, how not to be mean girls, right? Yeah. But I think we're also teaching our sons how to respect everyone. That's right. My husband often says, I'm teaching my son how to be a husband someday, right? A partner someday. Mm-hmm. I'm teaching my daughter how to be a wife, how to be a partner, how to be a spouse. Yeah. They're going to have their people in life, whoever they may be. Mm-hmm. And so I think that that's so important to make sure that those values come through and that they, again, feel like they're anchored in something for the long haul.
Definitely. So what's next for you?
What's next for me today?
What's next for you? No, not today. Just in general. What's TrueCare going to do in the
So TrueCare has some, we've definitely got plans for expansion. There's a lot on the horizon for us. And so we're excited about that. Nothing that I can reveal yet. We're still waiting for the ink to dry on the dotted line, if you will. Mm-hmm. But we've got some, some big plans for expansion. And then I think, we're busy every day in our mission-oriented, mission-driven work. Have an opportunity to work with a very outstanding outstanding team. And we're going to keep moving forward. We're going to continue to not only expand in North County, but also in Riverside County. And so we've got some exciting partnerships coming up.
Wonderful. Well, the best of luck to you. I know
Thank
you'll be
you.
successful at anything you do, and really great getting to know you on a different level. And
Likewise.
Michelle, you are extraordinary.
The feeling is mutual. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Now that was powerful. We hope you've been lifted and encouraged by today's inspiring voice. Always remember that life doesn't look exactly the same for each one of us. Never stop dreaming, striving, and thriving. In future episodes, we look forward to bringing you powerful stories from amazing women who learn how to lead in to challenges. Thank you for listening and being part of our community with SheEO host Rebecca Jones.